Hello everyone, I'm Vishwa Peiris, a researcher from the University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka. My work in progress presentation is based on a broader study to assess the urban resilience of cities, and as the first part of my study, I'm taking the flood risk assessment of the communities and how their behavior patterns shape the resilience and the vulnerability of these urban systems. If you look at the cities, and this flood risk is the most common, and the existing planning strategies, especially in developing countries like Sri Lanka, face multiple uh, disruptions or multiple barriers to have a certain resilience level or the response levels due to different financial and also the infrastructure deficiencies. Here, I am looking at the interdependencies of different multiple factors, especially from the natural, physical, and human perspectives. And also, I am prioritizing the population at risk as most important factor to contribute to the overall resilience of the cities. Based on that, I am looking at the dynamic nature of these problems and the flood events, and then the way people respond to these events and how soon these recovery processes happen as a dynamic nature. And also, my based on that, my research question is formed as to see how these population risks to the urban floods vary in these disaster-prone cities, especially by looking at the extreme flood events, and based on that, how these mitigation and adaptation strategies shape the overall resilience of these cities. With that, my approach is based on three different factors and the balance between those. Those are the natural systems, physical systems, and human systems together make use of these urban systems where this flood event disrupts this balance through the water retention, especially as a flood event, and then it will damage the physical components or the different infrastructure in the city, disrupting the material and energy flows as well as affecting the population and their livelihood, sometimes for a temporary period, sometimes for a long term, depending on the nature of the flood event. And my dynamic hypothesis is based on the flood event, and this flood events will increase the risk of damage, where these vulnerability zones, the people living in these vulnerability zones are being affected by the flood events, especially when multiple failures of these different natural, physical, or human systems occur. And in the same time, the recovery rate will also depending on the risk levels that are especially looking at the infrastructure that are critical for the functionality of these communities that are prone to these disaster areas. Based on that, I have developed a fundamental system dynamics approach to look at the variation of the flood, the vulnerability, where this risk population might be taken into different stratas of the society where they will be located in immediate flood zone areas, and also the recovery time will depend on not only the restoration of the infrastructure or the financial assets, but also the socio-economic factors within the community as well. So in my flood vulnerability model, I have taken the exposure, the recovery, adaptability, and re-exposition rates to assess the vulnerability of these communities, and also taken these risk factors before, during, and after a flood event, and to take these policy implications of these urban planning and different agencies involved in the cities, and how that varies their different risk levels to face a future flood event. And also the mitigation and adaptation policies, especially looked at from the short-term perspective and also from the long-term perspective, and how effective those to minimize the risks for this flood event. So that is the first part of my study, and I would like to obtain your thoughts, feedback, and then based on that, I can improve my model. Thank you very much for listening.